So engagement, publicity, and reinvention. I'm sorry, you know what? Tim, I need to put me on hold again, please.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay. And you can hit the next screen, please.
Okay, I'll just start it up again.
This is not the type of engagement we're talking about. Hit the next screen, please. It's this type of engagement. And hit the next screen, please. So there are many categories of audience members we're looking to connect with regard to school nutrition. We're talking specifically about parents, staff, and food service industry affiliates. The opportunity for meaningful connections is abundant. Please, the next screen. So publicity, I come from a PR background, and publicity is something that's always at the forefront. When it comes to social media, because we can do it on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, it's not like trying to see some sort of print publication or electronic media, and we can do it in small pieces. Please hit the next screen. So publicity-wise, there's a great opportunity for social media to allow us to celebrate our coworkers, to educate the community, and to be the reporter. In the old PR days, it was all about creating a pitch to try to get the media attention. Fortunately, today we are the media. So we have the opportunity to tell the story exactly as we wish, and that's the opportunity you should seize. Please hit the next screen. I'd like you also to consider the fact that social media is a great way to reinvent and reinvigorate your brand. So if you enjoy it and you can be energized by the opportunity, you can find that your staff can be invigorated, your program's brand can be broadened, and every season, every day is a new beginning. So there's always the opportunity to recreate your brand, to enhance your brand, and to redevelop it. Next screen, please. So to recap the goals, our goals are to engage meaningfully, to garner the publicity that your programs deserve, and to seize the energy of reinvention. This kind of opportunity, I believe, is too valuable to waste. Please hit the next screen. So strategy. This is the meat and potatoes. This is a ridiculous picture of a king. I think it looks kind of like a young Russell Brand. It's an overused cliche, but the truth is that content is king. And when you think about strategy, you want to start with content, not with the channels. We're going to talk about 3 T's: talent, tactics, and taste. So just as you wouldn't plan a meal around an oven strategy, you really don't need a Facebook strategy, nor do you need a LinkedIn strategy or a Twitter strategy. It's all about content. So looking at content conceptually, in a little bit we'll talk about the tactics and some actual, more hands-on. But conceptually speaking, when I work with clients, I'm always talking about how do we harvest content. The content is all around us. It's in the air we breathe. Or it's similar to the air we breathe, and then it's all around us. But it's really about mindset. And if you can think like a reporter and look for the stories, you'll find them. When it comes to being braggadocious is a negative thought. But when we're talking about bragging about about your school nutrition program that deserves it, about your coworkers who deserve it. Bragging is a good thing. We're going to talk about things like celebrating milestones, which will often start with something like congratulations to so-and-so for celebrating X number of years here in the program, or for even having a 10-year anniversary with a husband or a wife. Conceptually, think about the fact that even though you're the director, you're the manager, that you can share the load, you can delegate and manage responsibilities, so it's not all on you. And a great part of social media is that you have the ability to be transparent and to provide a window inside, behind the scenes, inside your program. Next screen, please. More specifically, tactics that I have found to work over the years and that many social media publishers rely upon are things like themed content. So think about themes. Behind the scenes is a great theme, and a lot of times you might want to think of it as a sneak peek. And if you've gotten a load of fresh tomatoes in the back of house, maybe tomorrow it's going to be a picture of salsa that was made from them. But right now, those fresh tomatoes, a picture of those to share with the community online, it infers a lot about your program, that you're using fresh produce, that you're sharing something that wouldn't otherwise be seen. You can always lean on something like holidays as part of an editorial calendar to think about. This is what major media publications have done for years. So, February is always Heart Health Month, and it's also Valentine's Day. Every March, people are always talking about things like March Madness, and people talk about St. Patrick's Day. So you can have that help to be something that you always know is coming up. Again, celebrations, celebrate anything you can, and it's a great way to feature your employees. And if you have something like a blog that you do, you may want to do a short QA with any of your question and answer series with any of your employees, and you'll be surprised what you learn about them. And I think that people are some of the more intrinsically interesting pieces of content that we can put out there. So that's part of the theme content. The news is, you have to find the news and look for the news. So someone who's a new hire, someone who's retiring at the end of the year, someone who's celebrating 10 years in the job, something that's inaugural, the first time that you present a baked potato bar, a taco bar, that's newsworthy as long as you frame it as such. Next frame, please. A big part of social media tactics also is to listen, and a lot of listening is following. And Twitter, it's easy to do. Everyone who Twitter's all about following and broadcasting. On Facebook, it's now became very much the same way. So there's something in Facebook called using Facebook as a page. And when you use Facebook as a page, as your organization, you can like and share and comment on what other organizations are doing. It's a great way to network, and it's a great way to be tapped into what's happening in your community and in your industry. Another important tactic is to educate. And I think that you hold a great platform to educate your community with regard to nutrition. Here's an example of something that you might want to offer. Did you know that a cup of kale has more vitamin C than an average-sized orange? So look for those opportunities. Many of you are registered dietitians or have registered dietitians on staff, and nutrition information is valuable to the community. Next frame, please. So sweepstakes and contests are something that we do a lot at Butterbutts Food Service. Giving a prize that people really want is I'll say it's a blatant what's in it for me, a WIIFM. This has been working in all forms of advertising for decades. It's been working in radio probably for over 50 years, that they've been giving away tickets to live events. It's a great way to initiate greater interest in your program. If you're having trouble growing your audience, this can be helpful. Next frame, please. So this is an example of a sweepstakes that we actually launched yesterday on the Butterbuds Facebook page. And anybody can go to facebook.com/bbuds and enter into this sweepstakes. The fact that we have graphic designers on staff helps us take something and make it more attractive. We could have very easily given the link and said enter our sweepstakes, and there would have been some interest. But to make it graphically appealing is important, and we'll talk about that in a moment too. Next frame, please. So one of the T's is talent. So we talk about tactics, we talk about talent, and we'll talk about taste. When it comes to talent, this is your opportunity to source the stars among you, your coworkers, your affiliates, your friends, those who are willing to contribute photography, who will take the spotlight. Look for those creative geniuses among you. If you have skilled writers, you'll find that very helpful, and you might want to blog about what your program is doing. And I've highlighted graphic design because, as you saw in the previous frame, graphic designers can take a stock photography image or take an image of something you've shot within the program and marry it to great-looking font and create a small billboard. It's very much like billboard advertising, social media, and it's a great way to think about it. If you're on the highway and you're driving by, a billboard has to very quickly and succinctly communicate to you, both visually and with words, the message. And that's really what you're looking to do with social media. Social animals are important too. If you have someone among you who is the kind of person where they know everybody, they could run for mayor and probably win, they have a wealth of connections, you'll want to take somebody like that and get them highly involved. They can help grow your audience. Next frame, please. Taste. Well, this is a favorite quote of mine. It's about brevity from Mark Twain. I would have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time. When I craft content, it typically starts out much larger than I care for it to be, and I think you'll find the same thing. When you're presenting something in social media, try to strip out all the words that don't help you communicate value, and shoot for brevity. Less is more when it comes to social media. Next frame, please. These are good questions that I get asked a lot, and I think people frequently have about social media. So what to post? Well, hopefully this strategy and the tactics that we're discussing will answer that. And if you're one of those people who say, well, I would do more on social media, I just don't know what to post. Well, if you can get your mind around the idea to think like a reporter and to look for the stories, you'll find the stories. With regard to how frequently, and this is a question I get asked a lot, well, I don't really know how often I should publish to the internet. And the answer to that is it really depends upon compelling content available. So in other words, if you have a day where 5 things happen in your day that are timely and are compelling for your audience, you can post all 5 of them. If you have another handful of days where you feel that there's nothing compelling to publish, it's quite fine to publish nothing. So let the quality of the content dictate the frequency. You should always ask yourself how your content can be improved, and frequently the answer is with better design elements. And this is why if you can find somebody who can contribute a little bit of graphic design skills, it's very helpful. But really, you don't even have to go as far as graphic design. It's just about when you publish to the internet, it is a visual. The platforms are typically visual media, and I very infrequently will publish something without the help of a visual aid. So typically it's an image, and it's typically something that can be shot with your mobile device. How to handle criticism is something else that people ask and that people concern themselves with, to the point that it can be crippling, where people sometimes don't want to participate in social media because they're concerned that their program will receive criticism and they wouldn't know how to respond. There's no one-size-fits-all answer to this because there's many different types of criticism, and a more severe type could actually require legal counsel. But most frequently, the criticism is minimal, and when there is criticism, it's something that I think you can respond to directly. And if somebody were to say that my child doesn't like the school food and says that there's nothing good to eat, I think you could address it quite quickly and say that we're finding that most of the children are pleased with our recipe, with our menu items, and handle it as such. So if you find that somebody then responds to you again and wants to go on and on, I would typically cut it off at that point. But the other thing is, this is why you want to be following other programs and organizations that you admire, because you'll learn from those who are proficient. You'll see how they handle criticism, and then you'll see what they do that is attractive that you can mimic in your program. Next slide, please. So again, a recap of our strategy points here: think like a reporter, employ themes that you can lean on. Nutrition, milestones, holidays are good examples. Follow, listen, and network with members of your community and organizations that you are fond of. And use the 3 T's: tactics, talent, and taste. Next slide, please. So channels. Channels came last because channels come last. The content comes first. Once you have good content, you can share it wherever you are comfortable sharing. So for most people, it starts with Facebook because that's where the largest audience is, and perhaps where you're most adept in maneuvering, because you may find that you use Facebook personally. LinkedIn is a great channel for B2B communication. If you have access to a blog is a great place to first post things and then share onto all social media from there. You'll find that for those of you that use Pinterest or Instagram and you've got great visual elements, by all means, those are great places to share as well, as is Twitter. Next slide, please. So here are some of our favorites, and I highly recommend these. And this presentation will be recorded and will be available for at least the next 8 days. You might want to check out each of these. As a matter of fact, if you email me, I'd be happy to send you the presentation, which has these as hyperlinks. And again, this is a small sampling. We follow and are interested in literally more than 100 different organizations. But if you're familiar with Dale Hayes and School Meals That Rock, you'll find that the Dale goes around the country and profiles nutrition programs that are having great success. And if you're doing something that you're proud of in your program, you should actually reach out to Dale Hayes and send her a note. And don't be surprised if you're featured as part of School Meals That Rock. Next slide, please. So I hope these are the takeaways, that you'll find that there's boundless opportunities in social media, that there's infinite ways to go about strategy and tactics, that content is king, that you'll want to maximize your resources and celebrate your coworkers, and hopefully you'll experiment and enjoy. Social media is new to all of us, and as time goes on, we all become more proficient. So the best thing to do is jump in the waters and start swimming. Next slide, please. Any questions? And my email address is here. Please feel free to shoot me any questions you have, and I'll be happy to assist any of your programs however I can. And you can reach me at keith@bbuds.com.
Thank you, Keith. Let me unmute the sound now, so if others have questions, they can ask them at this time. So just Wait for 1 second.
Terrific.
And I'm going to look here and see if we have anybody who's chatted here. I don't see anybody, but are there any questions for Keith in the audience today? This would be a great chance to ask more and learn more because, as you can tell, Keith has a lot of great experience and expertise in how you can use social media to promote your program. Please feel free to say who you are and what your question is, please.
And again, if you prefer to ask me, confidentially, please shoot me an email.
Absolutely. One question I have, Keith, is you've really done a terrific job of laying out tactics and strategies and objectives or goals. Is there any advice you would like to offer in terms of getting across that threshold that many of us have to start the process of social media? Once you kind of get into the planning and so forth, but there's kind of that initial jump in where and one thing you've done is you've given everyone some ideas of other people in our industry that are doing a good job, but do you have any advice on that, on how to get going?
That's a great question. And, it's I think you have to liken it to anything that you've ever become good at in life. I mean, even riding a bicycle. I mean, you have to start. And when you start doing social media, if you're not proficient at it, you'll feel clumsy and unsure of yourself. But you have to fight through that. And the truth is that, and we all have friends that we see sharing on social media, and some of them are really clever and terrific, and some of them are will broadcast anything that comes into their head. And I think that while you want to be discriminating and do your best to put forth content that truly is of value to the community, you can't overthink it, and part of it's really just about doing it. But I think if you use the resources you have, if you have, you have to realize that each nutrition program has dietitians who are nutritional experts who can disseminate information that I think the audience and the community would find valuable. And your culinary expertise is also highly sought after these days. I mean, we live in a world of abundant foodieism, and people are really curious about ingredients and about recipes. So I think that there's a wealth of great information just waiting to be shared. So I think if you look at it that way, and if you can come up with a compelling story first, that's why it's content first. And instead of saying, gosh, I got to post something on Facebook, you need to say, gosh, what are we doing that's really great? And when you ask yourself that question, you will find answers. And that's where it's great to focus on yourself in this way.
I think that's a great suggestion to the audience to kind of take a review of your internal strengths as a department or an organization, whether it be expertise in nutrition or the people who work in the department and the commitment, professionalism that they offer. And I think that's a great suggestion. Are there any questions now from the audience? Does any of this additional dialogue help spur any curiosity to learn more before we break away? Please feel free to speak up. Okay. There is one other session besides Keith's that I just want to mention that we recorded yesterday, and that was by Wesley Delbridge with Chandler Unified School District on the topic of dealing with negative publicity. You'll find, I believe it will be posted sometime today, in the Child Nutrition Professional Development Center. And the reason I mention it is that it's a presentation on how to use social media and other marketing proactively to deal with negative publicity about your program. I think you might find that as informative as well. But we will also be, we are recording this session today with Keith's presentation, and it will be posted in the Child Nutrition Professional Development Center for tomorrow. And you can access it if you missed part of it because you came in before, after we started. You can certainly view it at any time throughout the remainder of the show period. But I think it's great that Keith also has listed his email address, so if there's something else that you, or something that you would like to ask him directly offline, it's nice of Keith to offer to do that. So unless anyone has anything else that they would like to ask, I think we can bring this to a close. And is there anyone who would like to speak up? Okay, well, thank you all very much for joining us, and thank you, Keith, for an excellent presentation. And I hope
Tim,
everybody
thank you very much.
informative.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all, and there'll be another presentation here at 11 o'clock Pacific time and 2 o'clock Eastern time on Mastering Menu Planning with Karen Hagigi. So if you want to come back in starting 5 to 10 minutes before that, that would be fine. But for now, we're going to close down this session and say thank you all for joining us today.